Hello and welcome to another Simplicity Spotlight. My name is Jack and I get to be your host today to these wonderful ladies who are here to talk to us about something I think that's perfect to end the year with, but I won't take too much of their spotlight from them because frankly, they're the experts. Elyse Stoner and Angela York, thank you so much for joining us from Event Advisors. Would you both mind just telling us a little bit about yourselves and what you do?
I'm Elyse. It feels like an interview. I'm Elyse. I'm a Virgo.
Oh, it was just Virgo season too, Elyse.
There you go. I sit just outside of Philadelphia, and Angela and I will kind of give you the whole story. But basically, my background is in sports, entertainment, higher education events, what we refer to as very strategic events. And I love a great event, and I really love events because they're so impactful from a marketing point of view. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit. I am married. I have two young men that I guess they're still my children, but it's all good. So hashtag mompreneurs going on here.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Elyse. Angela, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Angela York. I am located in Orange County, California, on the other side of the coast. My background is in advisor marketing. I have sat in your offices. I was in-house in an advisory firm for close to a decade, and then I've been consulting for 2-3 times that amount. We won't go into that, but it's been a long time. I was the one that was handling all the events, doing a lot of the rinse and repeat, taking the events from the broker-dealer, taking the events from coaches, and then really making them come to fruition. And one of the things that I noticed is there wasn't a lot of strategy in the event planning. It was book the venue, invite the guests. Maybe some showed, maybe some didn't. And closing up after the event was over. We wanted to do follow-up, but a lot of times it just got in the way. Honestly, there was emails that had piled up. There wasn't a lot of strategy to it. And when Elyse and I met, actually at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything all the events came to a screeching halt, we realized with her event strategy background and my advisor event background, and there wasn't the strategy that there are in basically the rest of the world events, and how we could make an event that much more successful by really, we'll dig into this in a little bit, by making the event strategic with lots of different touch points and pieces and thought, so that it deepens the event is a piece of your marketing tool that deepens the relationships with your clients, to one, make the relationship sticky, to increase AUM and all that fun stuff that we'll dig into. So that's really my background, is having sat in your seat doing advisor marketing. I am married. I have one adult son who is in college as well, and 2 fur babies, 2 fur dogs. Oh, and I'm a Taurus.
Oh, and you're a Taurus. Oh my goodness. Well, you so good for each other. I actually know nothing about astrology. I'm an operations person.
Neither do I. It just felt like the right thing to say.
It has become that, right? It's like, I love it. Thank you for sharing the fun facts about yourself, as well as the inspiration behind why you started your business, which is pretty cool. I love when business owners see a need and then fill the need effectively. That's such an inspirational place to come from. Now, before we jump in, because I already have about 1,000 questions for you, and I don't want to steal from any of our audience today, we do have a couple of polls for you all. We're curious to see kind of where you're at in the event planning space, and kind of where your comfortability is with it. So the first question we're going to ask, you're going to see it appear on your screen, just really easy. And it's, how many events are you? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We're ask another one. We'll go back. Mom, I got too excited. It's what type of events are you hosting? I'm so sorry, everyone. So thank you to my friend who is already like, I use a workflow process. I can't ask that question yet, unfortunately. But that's awesome. Oh my gosh, you all are so quick. Thank you for being so fast. Wow, this is always so fun. Okay. Woo, you all are answering very quickly. So just as we're waiting, in case you're tuning in later and can't see, The question is just what type of events do you host? And the answers here we have are social, educational, and networking events. And with these events, it looks like right now educational is still kind of the most popular. Social is right behind it, and networking is kind of right behind it too. So it looks like we're all kind of floating in the same spot. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll, and we're going to do another one. So if you are just now tuning in and you're like, no, don't end the poll fun. Just kidding. We're going to get started with that in a second. I do want to share the results with you all. So you can see what I meant. It's all really close. I mean, of 12 of you, that's really
Very
cool.
close.
And I believe you could pick multiple options. So it sounds like some of you are planning more than one of these, which is pretty cool. If you do feel comfortable and you want to put in the chat how many events, actually, let's just ask the next one. I'll just ask the next question. Oh, I have to end this one. I got too excited.
I'd love to know in the chat too, if you're doing these events on a regular basis or they're one-offs. That's really
That's an excellent
helpful to
question,
know.
Angela.
Yeah, please. We'd like to get to know you, where you're from. Don't be afraid of the chat. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Send them anonymously. So if you don't want your name, you can send the chats anonymously, I believe. So
oh, perfect.
Just in case anyone wants to be extra secretive.
Oh, that was the answer.
Yeah, and here, while you're answering the question, there's actually a method to the madness. As much as we love polls, and as Angela said, we want to get to know you. This is something that we do for a reason, and that is, we could talk about this for hours. But when you're putting together an event and you want it to be successful, it really needs to be about your attendees and about your ideal clients. So there really is a method to the madness here for us to learn a little bit more about you. So we make sure we're giving you quality information. It's also a great takeaway when you're doing your own events. Learn a little bit about your people, the people you want to have in your room. So that when you're putting the event together, you're making sure that it resonates with them.
Absolutely, Elyse. Oh my goodness, especially if, and I'm going to end the poll, share our results. It looks like the majority of our audience is planning multiple events a year.
Excellent. There's one brave soul who's got 5+. Huh?
I was going to say, that's a lot. I want, if you are that one brave soul, and I did double check that the chat is open. If you feel comfortable, how many events do you plan? Oh, thank you, Melanie. Melanie chimed in and said that she's part of a new firm and they're here to get ideas for their first event. I love that. So yeah, the person who's planning 5+, if you feel so inclined, we have one more poll to do. But I would love to hear how many you're doing, because 5+, I mean, does that mean you're doing like 10? I've had advisors that do one every month.
Yeah.
Ooh. And I think that's another really great point, right? Is how are we defining an event? This is a kind of chicken and egg conversation that we have a lot. Someone will be like, well, I don't really do events, but I do a lunch and learn. Well, guess what? A lunch and learn is an event. Or I don't do events, but we connect with our COIs. That's an event. So there's sort of this broad definition of what an event is. And we love all of them.
Well, Elyse, I think that's an excellent place to start. So I'm curious, when you sit down and when you meet with people, or when you're talking to someone who maybe doesn't have the best footing on planning events, where do you recommend they start with that definition?
Business goals.
Ooh,
and that, super quick answer, because that's the gist of what we do with event advisors. Going to throw everybody back to, I don't know if it was geometry, again, not a math person, but the Venn diagram, the two circles with like the overlappy thing in the middle.
Yeah.
For us, that Venn diagram is events, marketing, and that sweet spot of where they connect in the middle. That's where we come in. So where do we start? We start with a firm's business goals. And then that way we can think about who we want to connect with, where all of this is going to go, and then build out what we call event goals because as almost everybody here who is doing events, right? Like I do this event, I do that event. How you gauge success is kind of also all over the board. So we say when you have event goals, that's how you can gauge your success, because are you meeting those goals? And those goals come from your business goals.
You know, it sounds so simple, but as a person who doesn't have, I mean, my experience planning events was like high school prom. But as a person who doesn't have a lot of experience, that's not something that I would have landed on first. So just to repeat, because we did have some more friends that joined us, Elyse just spoke very eloquently about how the best place to start when planning an event is with your event goals. What are your business goals? What do you want to do with it? Eventually, what kind of outcome do you want to see from it? And I'm curious, because obviously, like you both stated when you began this conversation, you started your business for a reason. So I'm guessing many advisors have come to you with events that didn't work, or for some reason were not successful. And I'm just curious, why do you think they weren't successful when they came to you, or what do you think they could have done better?
I'd actually like to jump in, and based on what Elyse said, and then what you said, and it all tied into like what I wanted to say. So many advisors, most will come to us and say, "Oh, I want to plan a client appreciation event, or I want to plan an educational event," or my wholesaler came to me and said, "I want to plan this type of event," or "I planned this event and it didn't work." So I know I can see in the chat we have several that are new to starting events and are looking for ideas. And what Elyse had said is a very important starting point. Look at your business goals. And having sat in the advisory firm space for so long and wanting to do, oh, let's do this event, let's do this event, just hoping it works and not necessarily understanding the thought we need to put in behind the event before actually executing it. And starting with the business goals is a really important first step. So for example, do you want to build relationships with female clients? Do you want to build relationships with the next gen? Do you want to meet more prospects? So what is the business goal? And that will transfer to the event goal. So for example, if your firm wants to build more relationships with female clients, so perhaps the husband, the spouse is coming to the meetings, the wife is not, you don't have those relationships quite yet, you want to develop those relationships. Let's say that's a goal, and you don't have to just have one, you can have many. Let's say that's one. To transfer that to your event, what type of events should we hold? Let's host women-centric events. And again, an event doesn't have to be a grandiose brunch. It can be something small or something large, or really what we recommend is you want to meet them where they're at. You want to understand what these women, and I'm going to use this just for the example piece. So your business goal could be something completely different. So you want to understand what these women that you want to deepen the relationships with, what type of events they want. What do they like? Maybe they're all in a different geographic location. Maybe virtual is something that appeals to them. So that will kind of lead us into our next piece of the conversation. It's where do you start? It's understanding your business goals, as Elyse said, and how that transfers to what type of events that you want to hold. And it doesn't mean you have to have one event, you have to have 5, you have to have 10. You just need to start, and it all should align with your goals. And when you have that in place, the type of events will become clear.
Absolutely. Okay. So as far as getting that information, so let's say we have our business goals. From there, identifying maybe those people that we need to connect deeper with. We've talked a little bit about segmenting, kind of like dashed it in the first 5 minutes of conversation. So I'm wondering, is now a good time? Should we segue back to our conversation on why it's important to segment? Is this a good time? Okay, perfect. So Angela, Elyse, I'm curious, why is it so important to segment your contacts for events?
Go ahead, Angela. You've done it firsthand.
Why is it important to segment your clients for events? It's leading back to what we were talking about. If you're inviting, okay, let me take a step back. How many of us have received an invitation to an event that has nothing to do with what we're interested in? I receive an event on Social Security, I might not be attending because that's not really the world that I'm concerned about right now. It's not in my area. It's not of interest to me. So the reason that segmenting your database is so important is because when you find out what your ideal attendee is wanting and who you're wanting there because your goals, then you invite the people that are interested in coming and they attend. If you invite people, if you invite everybody and just hope people will come, one, there's two things there. One, if you're inviting the wrong person and they're not interested. So let's say you might invite a bunch of men to your female event. One, it's going to make you look like something's off. Well, why are they inviting me to that? And two, obviously not going to come. So you really want to be laser focused in knowing who you want there, segmenting your list so you invite the right people. And you can segment your list how it serves your firm. It can be by demographic, it can be by gender, it could be by interest, it can be, list goes on. Elyse, feel free to chime in. And you can have multiple events. You can have multiple small events. So if you want to have, if you've got a couple different goals, your female education event, then you want to have a next gen event, and you really look at segmenting your database to be the powerhouse of what drives a successful event.
Excellent. And Angela, if I can just piggyback on that too, because I know a lot of our friends watching probably have seen a lot of our other webinars on using the database and how to best use Wealthbox, how to best use Redtail to deepen those relationships with your clients. I do want to highlight in this moment, this is a great opportunity to use keywords in both Redtail and Wealthbox, tag groups in Redtail, use your reports, use your search to identify these items. So just like Angela said, if you did want to plan a women's event, and let's say it was maybe an all ages women's event, or maybe 18 plus, you could easily go into your system and you should be able to see all the women of that demographic that you could then hopefully have emails for if your system's clean, and then pull the list of emails. And it should be that easy. And I completely agree with what Angela and Elyse are saying, that if you're not putting this information into the system, if you're not prioritizing it, when the day comes when you'll need it, it'll feel very cumbersome to try to collect it. So yeah, be proactive about it, definitely. Oh my goodness. But
and if I may,
yeah, Elyse, absolutely.
So Angela mentioned this in the beginning, but I think this is a really good time to talk about when you're looking at success for an event, and there's that sort of sad stepchild thing that happens, which is follow-up, right? We're all so excited to plan our events and they're super fun and all the pieces come together and that's really awesome. And then we get to the office the day after and we're like, I'm exhausted. And that event's over. It's great. Follow-up is a super important part, not only of what we call our planning cycle, but it really helps in your segmentation. And what we mean by that is when you're planning your follow-up, again, business goals, event goals. With those event goals, what are you trying to get out of this event? Additional information is always a great thing to get, and you put that in your follow-up. And if you have a clean database, you can then put that information into your database to get more information about those people. I'll give you an example. One of the first projects that Angela and I worked on, we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine to 2020. It was during the pandemic. And so people were doing virtual events. So it was a virtual wine tasting with a firm. And we were very strategic about like how many people were coming, how many boxes were going to be on the screen, kind of got into that nitty gritty. But what we did was, again, utilize this opportunity, not only to have those clients invite people that maybe are in their bubble to come and have some wine and hear from the sommelier, but we challenge them to do follow-up with their clients and say to them, we're so glad you came. Which of the wines that we sampled today were your favorite? And they would grab that information, put that into the CRM So when they had a landmark opportunity, an anniversary, a graduation, an anniversary with the firm, they could go right to that and say, oh, well, Jack really loved the Sauvignon Blanc that we sampled. We should send her a bottle. Or Jack didn't really like any of them, but we're having this conversation and she's really a Malbec girl, but we didn't have one of those. We could put that in. So you can use your follow-up to learn more about your attendees to kind of bridge that gap, if you will, to the next step in the relationship.
Thank you, Elyse. That was very eloquent. And it makes me happy to hear, because truthfully, I just put myself in client shoes, and it's going to sound so random. My dentist office sends me of like flowers every year because I've been going there since I was a child. And it's just the nicest thing. It's like, oh, I don't want to move. I drive 45 minutes to go to the dentist because I refuse to switch.
Me?
But that's it. It's exactly the point you're making. Like, they just know, and it's lovely.
They've built that relationship with you. You know them, you like them, and you trust them.
Yes.
And it's a moment that they are creating with you. It's may not be a big event, but it's a moment. I'd also like to talk about, Kyle was asking about list segments and tags. So once you have the correct information in your database and you start to learn what your clients, what type of events they're interested in, or their demographics, or when you do have an event, the follow-up, you can use those common denominators as the tags. And as you become more focused with getting to know your clients, you have your list, your segment, and your tag. This will help you in the future when you want to have very specific events, and you can look at what their interests are. And again, as I said, with the follow-up, it will help you with other things as well, such as your gifting or your knowledge. But tags are very important.
Absolutely. Now, just curious, because this conversation is clearly very important. When you've worked with advisors, what were some tags that you noticed that worked really well, or maybe worked for people who don't have tags in their system yet?
Oh gosh.
No, it's probably a lot.
I really have to, it really is specific to the advisory firm.
Absolutely.
But, for example, if you've got your segment, a tag could be those that drink, those that don't drink, those that have kids, those that don't have kids. And that would play into just really getting to know them better. So you don't want to exclude them from an event, but if you were to have a wine pairing event and they don't drink, you can say, we're having a client appreciation wine tasting event, but we would love for you to join. No, you don't drink, but we're going to be doing a tasting of cider or whatever it is. You can work with the venue, but inclusive rather than them feeling uncomfortable. We don't drink, we don't feel we should go.
Absolutely.
Again, this is a very bizarre example, but it could
be
relevant.
I feel like that's
and that's
really
how you would tag something so specific.
Yeah, no, that's important to keep in mind. Lots more people don't drink, and especially if you're a firm that's maybe exclusively done wine events in the last 5 years and you haven't had many people show up, maybe it's because your clientele doesn't drink as much. So
we do tags for dietary restrictions as well. Again, not part of the marketing piece, but it's also very helpful if somebody has told you that they're a vegetarian and you keep serving them meat. It just shows you're not listening. So to know at a glance, until of course you know by memory, then they feel appreciated. I had someone at an event. She had been coming for a long time, and I knew she was a vegetarian. And she's used to saying, when she gets to a venue, to say, do you have a vegetarian option? Well, I beat her to it and said, greeted her by name. I said, I just wanted to let you know I've arranged for this meal. Does that work for you? She goes, oh my gosh, I feel so appreciated. It gives me goosebumps. It was wonderful. She was so happy. She goes, nobody does that for me.
I'm happy that we dove a little deeper, because I feel like segmenting traditionally means just putting people in a group, versus I love how you ladies have broken it down to be even more segmented, where it's more detailed. You get really deeper in that relationship, because you're right, Angela, it's in those moments that your client starts to trust you even more, even though it has nothing to do with their field. It's just a moment that creates a bond. And those should not be overlooked. That is so smart. So yes, please use your CRM, store dietary restrictions, store those little notes. Don't let them live in your head. Put them in the system. Oh, excellent. Elyse, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was just going to add that too, because here's the other part of that, which is so Angela has this conversation with this particular client. The days of us staying, let's be really honest, the days of us staying in the same job for 40 years are kind of gone. So Angela's got this IP in her head. Having that in your database, you're sharing that with the growth of your firm.
Mm-hmm.
So when Angela is running her mega $1 million event advisors business, and there's somebody else helping that advisor with their events, then they still have that information, and it's not lost.
Absolutely.
I actually have a really good example that it just happened. There was a firm that was creating their holiday open house client appreciation event, and they pulled the list from the database, and a few people reviewed it. And I had been consulting for quite a long time and know a lot of people. I was looking at the list and I noticed there was a husband and wife listed as invitees. Well, I knew several years ago they had been divorced. So I put out a message going, just wanted to double check that they should be on the list invited together in case they got back together. And they had said, no, they're still divorced. They should get separate invitations, or one of them should get an invitation, and the database needs to be updated. So it's things like that that could be a big miss. But if you are diligent with your database, it really can be helpful. Case in point, the knowledge of the people in the firm beforehand, it was in their head. They didn't update the database, and therefore the information wasn't accurate. It was lucky that I was able to see that, but that can happen.
Excellent point, Angela. And maybe this is a good time for the poll question that I've already launched, but we'll relaunch it because now it's the time to ask about processes and procedures. Because I mean, those things shouldn't fall through the cracks. Absolutely not. And even I think planning an event can sometimes be scary because you're afraid of all of the little details. I'm curious, in that situation, you were able to catch it. Did you ever have a situation where you weren't able to catch it in time and something did happen?
One off the top of my head, I'll keep thinking. We tend to put those mishaps out of our
absolutely. You know, and
I'll think about it.
Yes.
Even just like it's happened. That's fine.
Well,
so
the
yeah,
dietary restrictions, that's a good one. It's failed to go in there, and they're served, and they said, "Well, sorry, I thought you knew."
Sure.
Little things like that. They do happen, but again, you want to make sure your database is clean. Yeah, those mistakes can happen. Actually, one was there was a client that did a summer home and a winter home, and the invitation was, and he had specific months and that he was at certain locations, and one of the invitation, it was our job to keep, he thought it was our job to keep track of, okay, if the event is this month, know where he's at and send the invitation there. And he did get upset the invitation went to the wrong home in the wrong month. Yeah.
But yeah, this is why you got to update the system.
Because it wasn't
Keep
listened.
your data clean.
He didn't feel
Oh
heard.
my goodness.
That would be an example.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm happy that doesn't happen anymore.
Yes, no.
But this is another reason why it's good to have a process and a procedure, just like these ladies are outlining. I do want to call attention to our chat really quick because I feel like you ladies have been so good about paying attention to everyone in there, and I just haven't. So I want to thank Kyle. You asked that great question about tags and segments, so thank you very much for participating. Oh, and Tammy and Kathleen and Melanie, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm just happy you're here. And I do think this is a good time because we have a lot of new people, it appears, to join us, or at least the brave ones that commented. So just while we're waiting to finish up these poll results, ladies, favorite events for new to event people to plan? What are some novice level events or some more comfortable level events that you would tell to some novices?
I'll jump in first. I like social over educational as a good place to start, because not only can you gather all this information that we're talking about, but it's that building of the know, like, trust. If these are already your clients, they've come to you because of some form of expertise, whether they've identified it or somebody has referred them. But it's a great opportunity for them to get to know the firm as the people in the firm and the people who are members of the firm community. I feel like a lot of times when firms say, I want to do an event, they automatically feel like the first one has to be educational. I need to show how smart I am, or I need to be a thought leader in a certain space. I think just building community and comfort can go a long way, or even in we joke around in the referral space, connecting that. So for example, if your ideal clients are people who are saving for college, so maybe your event is you bring in like a private college planner, like he helps you with applications and stuff. You as the advisor become that conduit that connects the clients to somebody else who can really be helpful. We often refer to that as, I got a guy.
I love that. I got a guy.
I think those are really great places to start. Angela, what do you think?
I do. I like that for several reasons. I mean, I know I want to make sure that there's a few of you that were looking for ideas, and we're talking more of the framework of events. Before we hop off here, we can definitely mention some great different ideas for events, but it really does boil down to what your attendee wants. We do like educational events to start for the novice. Make sure though that resonates with your clients. A great first step on that is, hey, we're looking to, this can be done in your review meetings. It can be done when they come to the office. It can be on your signature. You can send a survey. We're looking to do some events in 2025. Are you interested in social or educational or both? How far are you open to driving? Do you like morning, different times? Do you like, then once you figure out what they like, you can even put it in the same survey. What type of events, social events would you like to do? Would you like, for example, women gardening? Would you like the college planner? Once you know kind of what the makeup is. So if you were to start with an educational event, which we do like, one of the benefits is, or sorry, not an educational, social. Educational events have a little bit more depth to them, especially if you have a compliance department, because you have to get your presentations approved, and your speakers approved, and just has a few more hoops. So social events, and excuse me if I misstepped, if social events are a good spot to start, you have to send usually the invitation and your communications, but it's a lot simpler, a lot less logistics. You don't need to go big. You could do a happy hour. You could do a meet and greet in the office. You could do, well, it might be a little bit close to put together for Thanksgiving. You could, do a pie event for the holidays, the December holidays, or combine and pick up a pie. Super simple. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be grandiose. Doesn't have to require a lot of interactions with clients.
Angela, thank you. No, I'm really happy that you especially said that thing at the beginning about please make sure that you are catering to, no pun intended, the people that you're serving. Because I mean, like even myself, I feel like I oversimplified it by just saying like, hey, what are some easy events that I could plan? Well, a pie, arguably, if you got the right bakery, like a pie event is super simple. But what if nobody likes pie? What if you live in a part of the country? Like I know people that don't like pie. So thank you for reemphasizing, and I'm going to reemphasize it right now. Do the planning work to see what your I almost call them constituents. No, what your clients enjoy, what they like, because ultimately, yeah, it's about them. And especially if you're going to plan a social event, you want it to be something that they want to come to.
People always say, "Oh, we're going to do a show day." it's great, but make sure the eye roll,
It makes my skin crawl. It's a whole,
but
I'll get
make
off my
sure
soapbox
that
on
that's
that.
what appeals to your clients, and then build on that. Don't just have them drop something off. Maybe build the event around that again, to know, like, and trust them. And again, if it's going to be a chore for them to gather their documents to come for a shred day, don't do it. Ask them if they want to do that. Just because other advisors or your coaches suggest, or your broker dealer suggest, or the advisor down the street is doing a certain type of event, does not mean you need to do that.
Yes. Just because someone else is doing it does not mean you need to do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
we had an advisory firm that the clients were, on the younger side, and they did a pies and pints. Come meet at the bar, have a pint, and we'll eat your pie. So meet them where they're at.
Thank you. That's such a good reminder. Elise, yeah, I'm so sorry.
I'm
Ideas
going to
are
just do a
going.
quick, I'm going to do a quick tease. I know we're throwing a lot at you as far as asking your clients. At the end, when we get closer to the end of the webinar, there's going to be a QR code that you can snap, and it will get you, we have a one sheet that we've created, because I'm sure, oh, it won't be, that's client insights. Trying not to lose my background, which actually has a list of questions that you can start building into your client conversations to start gathering this information. Anything from those event preferences, like Angela was talking about, the size of the event, the content of the event. We want to be able to help you figure out what those questions are so you can get going. So that'll be towards the end.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. Oh, and that'll be so useful, because here I am telling you all, like, actually don't just plan an event, go and do a bunch of research first and then plan. So thank you for not leaving all these wonderful humans hanging.
One of the things
Nope.
too is, we should say, just start. You don't have to plan, 6 events. Just start with one. If you're looking to, there's a couple here that said they haven't done events and you don't know where to start. Once you identify, who you want to do the event for, what their interests are, you can plan something for February. Let's just say your business goal is to deepen those relationships with the women. You could do a ladies' brunch. Do something if you want to deepen relationships with centers of influence. Let's say this is on the education side. You could do a CE course, align with a wholesaler who has a CE course, and do one. I would recommend no later than the end of January, and then pick back up after tax season. But it can be small, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and just start.
Oh, excellent. Well, before I forget, I do want to share our poll results on, are you using a workflow process? And then we have one other poll that we'll do, and this might actually, I think this will start a really good last section of our conversation. But as you can see, so it looks like the majority of you are not using one, and that's okay, because that's why these lovely ladies exist and why I exist. So if you're not using one, I would highly encourage even just like writing one out, or get the one sheet from these lovely ladies and start to see what that event planning process looks like. For those of you who are, I have a really important question for you. And actually, this is more for Angela and Elise. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. So I know we talked about feedback a little bit earlier. And feedback is obviously really important, because it allows your clients to say, like, hey, this didn't go right. I wanted this to happen instead. I'm curious, a part of that feedback, do you prioritize internal feedback? Sitting down as a team, sitting and talking about what happened in the event, what we could do better next time. Is that a part of it too?
Absolutely. So you see these little pictures that we have in our backgrounds with the river, with the rocks in them. There's a purpose to that, and just hang with me. When we talk about event success, we talk about what we call ROM, return on the moment. You have this event, and instead of measuring ROI, we want you to measure ROM. Think about your events as rocks in your marketing stream, and how it can change the flow and actually augment what's going on with that. So to answer your question, yes, because part of your success measurement should be your stakeholders. and those are internal stakeholders, you know what? We often recommend having follow-up conversations with your vendors too. What worked well for you? What could we have done better? Just gathering as much information so you can, again, think about what that's going to look like. With ROM, we have a graphic that we use that's actually like a wheel, right? Because then what happens is once you do your event, you do your follow-up, you're then starting its strategy all over again with the information that you have gathered in that follow-up phase. And absolutely, it's all stakeholders should have a voice. Now, we could do an entirely separate seminar on how to get that feedback and how to kind of direct that conversation so that it's useful feedback. But we don't have time to do that today.
No, we can have another conversation another time.
That'd be awesome.
I like to highlight that specifically because I feel like that tends to be a big part of events that goes overlooked. And honestly, the processes need to be audited just as much as the execution. Because if you're already using a workflow or you're using something, when was the last time you touched it? Did you touch it 2 or 3 years ago? Or are there things that you have to add in it constantly? Maybe it's worth, do you have a whole new marketing department? It's good to just, once a year, maybe go in, tinker with those things, make sure that the processes are still relevant.
Absolutely.
Awesome sauce. All right. Now we do have one more poll, Elyse. Do you think we're good for one more poll?
Sure.
Okay. And that actually kind of ties in with what we were talking about. And it's, if you are hosting events, who's leading them or who's in charge of planning them? And I'm actually curious kind of what your opinion is on this. Do you think having one appointed person is important, having a department, having the head rotate? I'm not sure. What do you think the best strategy is for this?
I think somebody needs to run the point. Okay, again, I come from a sports background. So like your basketball team needs a point guard. The point guard can't win the game by themselves, but they're often referred to as the coach out on the court. So absolutely, there needs to be somebody running the point. You should work with everybody else, right? Like looking at this poll, is it coming from marketing? Is it coming from client services? Potato, it doesn't really matter, but there should be one person who's calling the meetings, who's gathering the information, who's doing all of the things. Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Angela, did you want to chime in at all? Or did Elyse sum it up for us?
No, that was about it. It really, you do want to have one person, your implementer, and everyone should have a role. And you all work to what we want to say, marching to the beat of the same drum. What's really hard is, and everyone needs to stick to that. So if someone's supposed to take photos, you're relying on them to take photos. It's happened many times where someone says they're taking photos, they don't take the photos, then you don't have any photos. So everybody who really needs to communicate ahead of the event. And it really has to be, decided on as a team. Most often than not, there is a dedicated person, whether it's the assistant or marketing event person, and that's their role.
Perfect. But if you're a smaller shop, like a 1, 2 maybe person advisory, what do you recommend? Or would you recommend having a point person or just both sharing the work?
You can share the work, but I think you need to segment the responsibilities.
Good.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Oh, thank you.
Because then what happens is it's just like cooking a meal with multiple people in the kitchen. You want everybody to have a role. So you all end up at the end with the same goal, or you're doing double duty, or something gets overlooked.
And I should clarify. Well, actually, maybe this is just a question I should ask the experts. How oftentimes do you have kind of an adverse situation where you have one person who doesn't want to give up responsibility and doesn't want to segment those responsibilities? What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to share the wealth?
Get a good team psychologist on board.
That's a great answer.
mean, those are team dynamics. So it's really hard to answer that question because you don't know the rest of the story.
Ooh, okay. That's fair.
So,
Now,
Also, too, if you are small, you can do events, even if you're a small team, you can always outsource. You know, we find that a lot as well. You don't have to do everything all by yourself, just like you probably talk to your clients about this, segmenting your database or getting everything set up or launched. You know, if you're a small firm, it's kind of hard. And I know you probably offer the service too. We'll help get that all in place for you. And we do that a lot with our clients is, you know, it's okay to ask for help, just as you would at home, whether you have, you know, people that come in and help with your children or carpool, or, you know, it's just because you're a small firm does not mean you can't do events.
absolutely.
As well as other marketing pieces as well.
Oh, sure. And I'm curious, in that one sheet, do you just talk about the initial event planning, or are there other tips and other things about marketing the event? All of those other activities?
So this particular sheet that we have, that we created actually for our webinar conversation today, is really talking about how to get these client insights to either start planning events or getting deeper into that. But we have all kinds of stuff that we have created. We have an entire project Trello board for actually planning the process of the events. We have one of our favorite giveaways with our experience is an event emergency kit checklist. So every event person should have an emergency kit with them. We have what we call event personality. If you're trying to figure out with the information you've received in this data, like, okay, what do I do with that now? It's sort of like almost like a Mad Lib kind of, I want to do this type of event, and you can fill in, and it talks about the different types of event personalities. So we've got all kinds of resources for folks.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So here, we'll put up the QR code here in just a second for you all. Kyle was wondering, he's going back to segmenting and would like to use lists for general use, or was more curious if you would use lists, or how would you go back to segmenting? What would you recommend, ladies?
I have a question for Kyle. Kyle,
Yes.
Are you talking about like a list that you purchase, or is that
I wasn't quite clear on the question as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could.
Oh yeah. Well, here, Kyle, if you're still here, are we talking? Because I know he said resending bounced emails that you need to reconnect with, or should think of it as a discovery and a test to see what segments or clients would fall in. So we'll see, Kyle. I think depending on what CRM you're using, it might just be best to throw a keyword or throw them in a tag group, kind of like what you said, like put them in a list. But yeah, if you can answer that, okay, we'll go back to that. But everybody, the QR code is on your screen. Please scan this.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Sorry, Mira said that she took a picture, or they took a picture and nothing came out. So let me find.
And while you're doing that, I would love clarity on, Kyle, your question. But you know, first you have the list, and then your segment, and then your tag. Your list could be, if you're wondering how to structure it, your list could actually be, you know, ABC clients, and prospects. So you have your kind of broad list. I don't know if that's answering the question, but if you're looking how to structure your database, have your broad list, whether again, clients, prospects, A's, B's, whatever it might be, and then segment, which is one level lower, and then tag is one level lower than that. I hope that helps answer the question.
No, Angela, I think that was great, because I think this also opens up for a larger question, which is how specific should I get in my segmentation? And I think you summed it up perfectly. And you should have a general list, and then kind of like have a list where you can maybe throw everybody in, but it's not something that you reference every day or every moment. It's something that you pull up when you need that specific item. Yeah, no, I think
so. For example, if you only want to invite A and B's, if you only want to invite COIs, it just makes things a little easier. Or if you want to start, you know, adding multiple, but having that correct list, I think he might have responded. And then I knew there were a few people that were looking for general ideas. I'm curious. if you have any more questions, if I know we were going a little bit granular on, find out what do your goals and then find out what your clients want and ask them. And then our one sheet has those questions. I want to make sure this is valuable to you. Do you need any more specific ideas? Were you looking for, like, you want to do you already know you want to do a COI event, or you already want to know you want to do a women's event. If you want more specific ideas in the last few minutes, pop it in to the chat or the QA, and we can give you some specific ideas. I know there are a couple of questions. I think somebody had asked, do you invite by text, email, mail, phone call? And for those of you that didn't see my response, it was yes to all the above, however they want to be communicated to. And you should know that when you're speaking to them. If somebody doesn't want text, do not invite them by text. And if your clients don't have any preferences, then it's okay to use the multiple mediums to meet them where they're at. Some still like mailed invitations. We have a client that was doing a holiday event, and every year the clients really like to receive a really nice holiday invitation in the mail. But if they don't care, you don't need to spend the money to do that with postage being so high.
When an
But
email will
you
do it.
do want to meet them where they're at.
Absolutely. And that I think should be the reoccurring theme of today is meet your clients where they're at for events. That's such a genius way to look at it. Absolutely. One other thing, because we do have 5 minutes left, ladies, and I thought this would be a fun way to incorporate some event ideas. Do you have a favorite event you've ever planned, or like a most successful event that you get really excited to talk about?
They're all fun.
Yeah, as we mentioned at the top, being a parent, the analogy I give is it'd be sort of like if someone asked me which one was my favorite child.
Oh, geez, I'm
it
so sorry.
depends. It depends. No. But I mean, but it's reality, right? And my response is, it depends on the day.
Okay.
And the good news is that my sons know that. But it is, I mean, there isn't a particular one. I mean, there's different ones that stand out for different reasons. And a lot of times it's about the outcomes, at least for me, it's about the outcomes, and it's about the people in the room.
Yeah.
So for example, I've been involved with a lot of fundraising events outside of the financial services world. And there have been some really great ones where, there's not a dry eye in the place, and you raise a ton of money and everybody feels so good when they walk out of the room. That's success. But like, you wouldn't want those results necessarily if it was a social security planning event, right? So that's why it also kind of comes back to goals. So for me, my favorite ones are the ones that hit the mark on the goals that we've set, because they're part of a bigger piece of the puzzle.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I, once again, appreciate that we're revisiting that topic of don't focus so much on the surface level, focus on the overall like goal, focus on what the mission is, because the event is meant to lead you through the mission, not the other way around. So,
and that the event is that rock in the stream, right? So it's a good event is part of a bigger plan. It's not just this one-off thing that I'm doing because somebody else told me I should, or because I think I should. Think about the rock in the stream.
I love that. Angela?
Looking at the Q&A, connecting to all clients, do you want to dig deeper into that?
Absolutely. This is the perfect time. I was going to wait until after you responded, but yeah, so we got an anonymous question. When connecting to all clients and inviting them, how many touch points minimum should we structure? So Angela, what do you think?
Again, so you have those, you have those that are quick to respond, and you have those that are not. Unfortunately, if you have a group, if you're doing a big event or doing an event and people are not responding, they're busy or whatever it might be, maybe they didn't see it in email, please don't hesitate to keep reaching out. your clients will learn that they need to RSVP, but whether it's yes or no, or you're going to keep contacting them. If it's a smaller event, pick up the phone, call them. Not sure if you've received our email. Would love for you to join this event. They also feel very important when you do that. So as far as the number of touch points, it depends on the event. I know this is kind of vague. It depends on the event, and it depends on how much planning you have ahead of the event. So for example, there's a holiday event, middle of December, invitation, save the date went out, and beginning of October, mailed event invites are going out, and then an email is going to go out every week just to make sure people see it. You do want to take the people that have RSVP'd off that, or they won't feel heard that they've RSVP'd. There can never be too many touch points. You'll be able to know if it's too much, but definitely not every day. Once a week, maybe twice a week if it's depending on the event, and how hard it is, how many people you've heard from. I hope that helps.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
Can I add
And I didn't
something
mean to
to
skip
that?
over
Okay.
what you had said before as far as my favorite event. My favorite event is when you have clients or attendees that come up and go, oh my gosh, that was so awesome. Thank you so much for including me. Because that means that it's successful, and they wanted to be there as much as you wanted them.
Would you say that they feel heard?
Yeah. What's hard is when you're having an event, and hopefully this doesn't happen to any of you, but have an event and they get up in the middle and leave, or have to leave early, and they haven't hit that mark. The event's not meeting their needs.
Excellent. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen too much, because you two are the experts.
Not
So
anymore.
I'm just going to plug that right now and say that
Well,
doesn't
it
happen with these
happened
two
once.
ladies. Elyse, do you want to chime in really quick? Because I know you had
Yeah,
more
so this
for
is
us.
super quick. So talking about just piggybacking what Angela was saying about those communications between invitation going out and event itself. When you talk about workflows, think about communication workflows. So think about what's actually going to go into those emails, those phone calls, getting people excited for the event. This is an amazing window to do that. So think about those emails where instead of just sending the same email 3 times saying, we haven't heard from you. Are you coming? Think about different things like highlighting a video from the speaker, or here's some really great tips about the venue, or here's a testimonial from someone who came to this event last year. Like making it different emotional touch points as well, because that may then inspire people to actually RSVP.
Excellent. Oh, I love the idea of tying in the emotional. That's where most memories are made. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're at 1. Well, it's 1 o'clock Arizona time. But time flies when you're having fun. You're not wrong, Angela. I want to thank you both again for being here today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to Kathleen and Tammy and Kyle and Mira for chiming into the chat, and our anonymous attendees too. And thank you for participating in our polls. We hope to see you all again soon on another Simplicity Spotlight. But until then, feel free to use this QR code and get that beautiful one sheet these ladies made. And we will talk to you all soon. So thank you. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.